Welcome to the channel, folks. So today's video is going to be covering the newly released and updated Honeywell Home X1N non-programmable thermostat. This is a single-stage heating and cooling thermostat. It's also known as the RTH11B. This is a great non-programmable manual-style push-button thermostat. A lot of people prefer this style thermostat over the new fancy, complicated thermostats that require, your smartphone to connect to it, and you would have some kind of connection with it constantly. That way you can use your device. There's none of that with this. This is a very simple device. Just push button, and it's ready to go and to use, and you don't have to have any fuss about it. So, as you can see here, it's a very simple layout, but it does need to be set up properly in order to use first. So I will cover that on the second half of the video, but I'm going to start off just covering the basic operation of this device. This is a very simple device, like I said. I actually plan on installing these in my home because I have the old RTH thermostats, which are nice, but I like the display on this. I like the simple, the simple aspect of these because they're just very easy push button, and you can see them from across the room, and you don't have to walk up close like the older style RTH ones, which you have to get really close to see what the value is. But anyways, we have 4 push buttons here. So simple to use. Our first one is going to be the mode button. That's very self-explanatory. Heating, cooling, or off. Okay. For this, we're going to choose heating, and then we can hit save. The next button is your fan button. We have circulation, auto, and on. Okay, so auto is what you're going to want to be running all the time. Okay, this is automatically going to turn on and off with your heating and cooling as it's commanded. Okay, that's the normal setting for this. If you want to go use the other options, which is circulation or on, circulation will turn on the fan randomly, 33% of each hour, kind of randomly, to circulate the air in the house, and that's it. And then it'll automatically turn off, but it'll be on 33% of the time. Our other selection here is on. If you select on, that essentially means it's going to stay on indefinitely 24/7, okay, until you come here and turn it back into a different mode, back to auto or circulation. On is really, I don't recommend using it because you might forget that you have it turned on completely, and it's just going to run forever until you come back and switch it manually to the auto position. So leave it in auto, you will have no problems there. Over here we have the up and down arrow to change our set point. So you can see here in the upper right, it will change our temperature set point. That's the desired temperature. So we want it to come up to 74 degrees Fahrenheit. This here in the center is the indoor ambient temperature of the room. This number will not change until the actual heating or cooling system adjusts the room temperature, comes up to speed essentially, to make your room either hot or cold. Okay, if your heating system or cooling system has a problem, you might not see this number, rising or dropping fast enough. But right here is your desired temperature. Okay, this is what you want it to come up to before it turns off or on. So that's the very simple operation of the heating and cooling. In this display here, we have heating on, which is telling us that our heating is actually switched on, and it's commanding heat. So that's very simple to see there. Like I said, you have your indoor ambient temperature, and then you've got your fan and your mode still displayed here on the left. So very simple operation. It's really hard to mess this up. You can't really do too much to mess the operation of this thing up. As long as you select your proper fan mode, I don't see you having any problems. But there's also a recommendation to set this up when you first get it. So when you first get it, now we're going to go into that setup menu. And to get to the setup menu, it's kind of a hidden menu. Okay, you have to hold down the fan button and the up arrow like this, both at the same time. So once you hold it for about 5 to 6 seconds. So here at the top, we have the ISU number. This is going to give us the kind of the parameter we need to adjust. And then this is the selection here that's flashing on the right. So with the ISU number, there's going to be multiple different ones. So as you cycle through this, I'm just going to cycle through them really quick. There's about a handful of these, okay? And they all mean something. They're a different setting. And then it goes into it's saving right there. And then now it's going to ask for heating, cooling on or off, and then fan on or off, and then done. Let's go back into that by holding down our fan and up arrow button together once again. And let's go over each one of these. So the first one is 1050. Okay, that one is simple. That's either Fahrenheit or Celsius, okay, for your temperature indication scale. That's what they call it, 1050. So the next one is 2000. 2000 is heating system type. 1 equals conventional forced air heat, 2 equals heat pump, and 3 equals radiant heat boiler, which is what I have, and 5 is none, so cooling only. Okay, I'm going to select 3 because I have 3. The next one is 2010. 2010 is heating equipment type. Number 1 is going to be standard efficiency gas forced air. 2 is going to be high efficiency gas forced air. 3 is oil forced air. 4 is electric forced air. 5 is hot water fan coil. And 9 is hot water radiant heat. 12 is steam. Okay, so the closest one that matches my heating system type is hot water radiant heat. So we're going to select 9. Okay, that's already selected. The next one, we have 2070. 2070 is compressor stages or cool stages. You have the option of 0 or 1. I'm going to leave that on 1 because we have a single stage compressor. Next is 2071. So this one here has an ISU number on the pamphlet here in the manual that I don't have on my device, which is 2060. I'm going to cover it anyways, and then we'll go on to the next one. So 2060 is reversing valve O/B. Okay, 0 is going to be dictating whether it's used for cooling controls, and 1 is going to be dictating whether it's being used for heating controls. Okay, so either one of those is the option. Either it controls heat or cooling. And that's what 2060 is. The next one is going to be 2071. So 2071 is heat stages. So we have the options of 1. So it's a single stage heat. We're going to leave it on 1. That's the only really option we have here. The next one is 3000. 3000 is system changeover. So 0 is going to be a manual changeover, and 1 is going to be enabled, which means automatic changeover. So this means that if you wanted to switch from heating and cooling automatically, you would select 1. That would automatically shift into each mode as needed. So we're going to keep that to off because I like to do that myself, okay? So I will leave the changeover to off. But if you wanted it to be set to enabled or automatically switching over, set that to number 1. But let's continue to the next one, which is 4103. 4103 is minimum heat set point. Okay, so this is good if you have it like in a lower level, like in the garage where it's going to get colder in that room, or a basement level room where you don't occupy all the time, and you're like, okay, I want to drop it down to 40 degrees or something. Okay, so you can do that. The default is 40 degrees, but you can go ahead in there and change it. Okay, you can go lower if you want to. You can go all the way down to 32 on this. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to 40. Leave it at default. Hit the next button. We have 7110. 7110 is your air filter replacement reminder. 0 is going to be off, and then all these other ones here, the selection you have, number 1 is going to be 10 runtime days. So that's an accumulated time, and then it jumps, it increases for, 20, 30, 45, 60, 90, 20, 150 runtime days, which is number 8. And then the next kind of group here starts at number 9, which is, it turns into actual calendar days versus runtime days. So 30 calendar days is number 9. And then that continues on 45, 60, 75. Then it's months on 13. So 13 will start off at 3 calendar months. So if you want to set your air filter reminder, okay, and so on. And then the greatest option is going to be 19, which is 15 calendar months. And it's increments of, it seems like 2 or 3 each time. The calendar months go 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, 12, and 15 months. Okay? That covers that. It kind of gives you an option of either runtime days, calendar days, and then calendar months. The next one is going to be 14005. So 14005 is idle screen selection. You can have 0, which equals minimum information shown, or 2, which is maximum display information shown. I'm going to have number 2 because I want to see as much information as possible. So that's what I have, number 2. Save. And then it's just going to go into this mode here where it's asking you for heating. 0 is off and 1 is on. Okay, we're just going to keep those at 0. You can come back later and turn these on as needed. And then hit done. It's the same thing as controlling it from this here with the mode button. So I don't know why they have that extra little menu there. Just so you can go right into it, I guess. All right, so the next thing we're going to cover is the alerts and reminders, which is a common kind of thing that people ask. You're going to get an alert number possibly on the main display, and this is what it means. So 405 is going to be low batteries. 407 is going to be critically low batteries. 170 is going to be thermostat memory failure. 173 is going to be internal sensor error. Issue with the built-in temperature sensor. 181 is going to be replace filter. So this is going to be your reminder for the filter. All right, so next we're going to cover some of the backplate stuff and also how you install the batteries and things like that. All right, so here we have the back side of the thermostat. Now, when this is connected on your wall, this base plate right here will be attached with screws to your drywall or wood paneling or whatnot. So we have 2 AA batteries here. You want to go ahead and change those out regularly to make sure your thermostat is in good operation. And the base plate here pretty much has to come off straight off the unit, okay? So because I have this knot on the wall, I have to do this with a pick. So it comes straight out and up. So when you have it on your wall, you're going to want to pull it straight off the wall, okay? You don't want to be leaning it or like doing weird angles with it. You want to come straight out off the wall, normal to the surface. And here is the base plate that's going to be attached to the wall. As you can see, we have the contacts that made up with the base plate in these small holes. Okay, it's a very simple device. It doesn't take a lot of effort. I recommend kind of like bracing your fingers up against the wall and then kind of just like pulling off gently and evenly straight out off the wall when you do this. Because there's no method for you, there's no like little tabs or anything. The tabs are all inside of here. So there's nothing on the exterior for you to depress to pull it off. Okay, you just have to come straight off nice and even and firmly. But be very gentle because if these aren't anchored correctly in your wall, you will have problems and it probably will rip out. And then you're going to have a loose thermostat on your wall, which is very annoying. So like I said, batteries are here. I just want to go over the base plate and what it does really quick. Okay, so you can pull this open. When you first set this up, okay, when you wire it up to your home, it's very simple, okay? So if you have, a 4 or 5 wire system, it's easy to do. But if you start having more than that, I would recommend, if you're not comfortable looking up the instructions and doing it yourself, to hire an HVAC professional. They will come and hook up your thermostat and take care of that for you. But I do want to cover the basic kind of operation of how you would install this on the wall. Even though we're not on the wall, I'm going to go ahead and just describe it to you. Okay, so if you have a standard 5-wire system, so that covers your heating and your cooling, and if you have a fan, okay? In my case, I have, forced hot water baseboard heating boiler that forces water around the baseboards of my house, and then I have central air for AC. I have a 5-wire system, and in my system, I would use these two right here. So RC, basically the ones that are in dark gray. So we have these ones that are in dark gray right here, as you can see. The ones in dark gray are the common ones that are used. So the one thing you want to look for is that sometimes these two here, I have a jumper on them, okay? Or you'll have two red wires. So the R stands for red. So that's the red wire. And if you have 2 red wires, you would want to like slide this open and install the 2 red wires here. So your primary, then you have a secondary. If you have a white wire, that's going to be controlling your heat. So you want to hook up, to control your heat, you want to hook up the white wire. Over here, if you have cooling, is the Y wire, so yellow wire. You're going to hook up the yellow wire to the Y. Green is for fan, so if you have green wire, hook that up, that's for your fan. C is for common, so if you have a black or blue wire, that's where you're going to connect it. You're going to connect it to the C connection, which is common. But if you have, like in my case, I have 2 red wires, okay? Or sometimes they'll put a jumper to these 2 here. This is basically the 24 volt power supply. The R is for the heating, the RC is for cooling, so power supply for cooling. That's why you have kind of the C there for cooling. But 2 red wires go here. Sometimes there'll be a jumper here, so you take a small piece of wire and then jump these. But like I said, power wire, white wire, yellow wire, green wire, and then common wire, which is black or blue. And it's very simple, okay? So if you had only heat, you most likely would only have the red and the white hooked up. Okay, so if you have forced, baseboards, hot water, baseboard forced hot water, that's all you would see, is these two wire connection. Okay, when you start having a cooling system, you're going to have the yellow, the green, and possibly, well, you're going to have this one as well. So you're going to have 3 other wire when you do cooling. Your RC, your Y, and your G. So your red, your yellow, and a green wire as well hooked up in addition to the red and the white for heating only. So as you can see, it's really not that complicated. I will put up a chart on the video to show you what these stand for. And like I said, there's a lot of stuff going on here, but the dark gray ones are the ones that are most commonly used. And these 2 here are usually jumped, okay? And if you did jump them, there's no like problem leaving it jumped. But this base plate has these sliders on here that you can slide open to like block off these bottom slots or bottom entries. But this is very simple. You just basically depress the tab and insert the wire. You would strip it like a 1/4 inch and then press down the tab and insert it, and then it's going to pinch the wire. Very simple attachment in operation. The install is a very simple install. Just make sure you use drywall anchors or whatever. You get to a stud. That way you don't pull this thing out when you go to change the batteries. It rips it out of the drywall, and then you're going to be very annoyed. But that's just a tip for you guys. Make sure you have good drywall anchors holding this thing in, because over time this thing will come loose, and then it will just like looks kind of like angled and not squared up to the wall. But that there is the base plate. Like I said, very simple. It clicks right in place, and that's the X1N thermostat. I covered the basic operation. If you guys have any other questions or comments, I will go ahead and answer those as needed or as they come. But like I said, check out the other video which covers the programmable version of this thermostat. And that's going to be it for the video, guys. I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you have, like I said, any questions or comments, please place them right down below. I want to thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.